because in the beginning you do everything yourself as the founder, and then you bring in other people to leverage you, and then you get to a point where you kind of let them do it, and you think by bringing people in you're going to be able to accomplish more, but actually things get worse because you were doing it and you were doing it the best, and now you've given it to somebody else, and instead of leveraging your time, they've taken what you've done and done it worse.
Welcome to the show, brother. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I love this town. I love Miami in general. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, so we're based here, for the listeners that don't know, we're based in Miami Shores. Michael, you when did you move to South Florida?
My girlfriend's lived here since she's 16. So we've been coming back and forth for 3 years. And then this year, September, or last year, I guess at this point, September, we moved here full time. So we're mostly in Fort Lauderdale now. And then we have an office in Miami. And then we're working on getting a condo in Miami as well. So
that's awesome. I see you're enjoying the Florida weather because you're getting full on golf gear right now.
Played some golf this morning. I got my tan going on.
Coming right off the links. I love it. The weather's beautiful, no doubt. It's December and it's January and it's 60 degrees and sunny, you know? So great, man. So you're CEO and co-founder of SwagUp. I keep hearing about this company a lot due to your awesome marketing. You're doing a great job on Twitter talking about the company, documenting what you're doing, which I love. So real quick for our listeners that don't know about you and SwagUp, what is SwagUp? Give us like a brief elevator pitch on it.
Well, first off, it's interesting that the first 2 years I didn't talk to anybody about SwagUp in general, or tweet anything or try to get any sort of publicity because we were just building the company.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I started the company back in 2017 out of my mom's house, and basically the idea was that startups love swag. They love employee engagement, community building, culture, all these kinds of trends were kind of converging, and swag is at the centerpiece of it a lot of times. And there just wasn't a company out there that really resonated with startups and the brand and vibe of like high growth companies. Mm-hmm. You have like these legacy suppliers like 4imprint and Custom Ink and these really kind of boring websites that are full of the same garbage, and they're all competing on price.
Right.
And then on the other side, you have like these kind of like agency style businesses that have tons of sales reps, and it's very hand-to-hand combat, very like on the ground local sales model. They're very inefficient from a net income standpoint. Mm-hmm. So we kind of wanted to build a business in the middle that focused on making swag really frictionless and simple for startups, and build a brand around it that resonated with them. But then take some of the e-commerce like self-service nature of what like 4imprint had kind of done, but then some of the services that like these agencies have kind of done, like design services and fulfillment, warehousing and inventory management, all that kind of stuff. And then you'll take it a step further and build a software layer on top of it that allows these companies to kind of integrate into their workflows. And that's what we've been doing, just kind of helping these companies create and distribute swag globally.
Right. And what I like about it is it takes what is normally a fragmented kind of experience and it brings it all into one place. I remember when I was running my company, if I wanted stickers, I'd go to Sticker Mule. If I wanted to go get a T-shirt, I'd go to Custom Ink. It was all over the place, and you had to like kind of have different vendors. What I love about SwagUp is you could just go to one place and kind of order everything. Right?
Yeah, we're just trying to streamline it. One of the main things that we focused in early on is these packs. These new hire packs or customer packs or whatever it is, like welcome packs in general. Think about the process of getting that. You get a box from maybe Packlane, you get the shirt from maybe Custom Ink, you get the stickers from Moo, you get the bottle from 4imprint. Like you have to piece it together from a million companies. Especially
and then you have to put the basket together yourself.
And if this is your first time, you don't even know what suppliers to go to, what's high quality. There's too many options. You have to get a design team like designing logos and putting it on. It can take 10, 20 hours just to do something like that. And then, like you said, you get it in your office, you got to assemble it on an ongoing basis. You're sending these shipments out. There's people that they have storage closets full of this swag, and people go in and steal it, and they got to go to the post office to create shipments to get it to that remote hire. Like there's just no scalable processes around swag, but swag is super impactful when done well.
It is.
So we just wanted, like you said, streamline the process and then take it a step further and integrate into workflows so that you can automate it and make it just the same thing as a digital marketing channel or anything really in that respect.
I love that. And so the idea for SwagUp, we're going to kind of take it back a notch and talk about the origin story and then get into some of these lessons that you learned building the company. But the idea for SwagUp was what year?
2017.
2017.
The very beginning of
Was this like a, light bulb in the shower idea? This like, how did it hit you? You know what? Like, because it seems like you kind of found a market opportunity and you went for it. But I want to know that light bulb moment that kind of had everything click, or was it like a gradual the pieces kind of came into place?
It was a combination of both.
Yeah.
So, the foundation was set for the company back in college when, maybe 2015, a buddy of mine from high school came to me with the idea to start an app that was basically a location-based social network to find kids on campus to do, activities with. I want to put a basketball game together. We're at this park, meet us here, there's chat, those types of things. And in that process of trying to get kids excited about it on campus, we want to put flags in dorm rooms, get T-shirts, get swag basically to promote it, because we saw Barstool Sports was doing flags and putting them up at the parties and in the dorm rooms, and that kind of helped accelerate their business. And so we want to do the same thing, but they were super expensive. A flag at a US apart was like $140, for a piece of polyester. And then I found Alibaba and I made them for $8, So I was like, okay, we're working on this app, but we might as well start a little like custom flag business and start selling them for $75 and undercut the price in half. So the website was literally called cheapcustomprinting.com at the time. And that was just like a little side business. And I learned a little bit more about the promotional product side of it and the supply chain. But I never really like dug into it, but I always had that kind of on the back burner and as a side business. And then it was just a matter of different kind of worlds converging. Then, I was business partners with an NFL player. I dropped out of school, did that for a year. And then I was with a VC firm, a buddy of mine in New York City for like 3 months. And being with all these startups, like I said, you just recognize how much they care about swag, and they didn't have a solution. So, kind of understanding that swag background and being in that environment, we just kind of put it together and said, okay, let's try this. And I still worked at the firm and then had like a Wix website and a Trello and Zapier on the side and just kind of put it up with some ads and saw if people would be interested. And the light bulb moment though, for this, because that was the initial insight, but then what helped us really scale early was the pack concept, because one of the first orders we got, first big orders was for $10,000 was 100 packs, 100 times 100 basically. And that just got us thinking like, okay, if this company wants them, first off, there's lots of different use cases for them and they're very complicated to put together. So if we can productize this process and make it easily available to other companies, they're going to be really interested in it. And there was literally like a light bulb moment. I was going for a run. I remember it in like June. And I was just like, what, the thing we have to do is just focus in specifically on these packs. We can't be like, oh, like we do packs, we do bulk, we do this. It's just, we're the swag pack company. We, the tagline was swag packs made simple, because I had read Seth Godin's book, The Purple Cow. And I'm a huge fan of like a lot of what he's done, and also Positioning by Al Rees and Jack Trout. And you have to own mind share in people's mind, like, and be known for something very specific. And The Purple Cow is all about being remarkable. It's like people need to see you and know, wow, like that's way different than anything I've seen, so that they remember and they tell other people about it. And that was the kind of idea, is like, let's eliminate the friction to like trying to remember us and be known for the packs. And then from there, we'll use that as like the mousetrap to spread, in these organizations once we get in there with them.
I love that. I love the Purple Cow concept is brilliant in the fact that like you don't want to be competing against Custom Ink for mind share in that space, right? You don't want to be competing with stickers and the mule companies and all that stuff, right? You want to be known as the aggregator, the pack company, right?
Yeah, you got to find the white space that they don't want to play in. There's a ton of big companies, and I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel and build, go after new problems all the time and innovate and create new solutions. I think you just have to do things better that are already proven, and there's things that big companies choose not to do because they already have plenty of business and they don't want to do it. But it doesn't mean that they're not opportunities. And then you can leverage those opportunities to start to take business back from those bigger companies.
Right.
And I also think that we grow the market too, because we're taking on demand that maybe wasn't there or was there but wasn't being fulfilled because there's too much friction to getting up and going.
That makes sense. So to talk about those early days of SwagUp, I read that you started this out of your mom's garage, right? Is that the first kind of operations, right? You're out of college, back home with mom, and then starting SwagUp in the garage?
Yeah, because when I left college, I went to live with the NFL player, Steve Weatherford. I was literally in his house full time. And then, after a year of that, I went back home and started living at home. And I was commuting to the city for that VC job, but I was still living at home. And I was lucky because my mom had a boyfriend at the time and she was like living with him for the most part. So the house was kind of vacant. So that's what made it so much easier to become a warehouse, because it was really just me in this house. There was maybe 2,600 square feet. That was plenty. That was all I needed for now. And
for sure,
it was just funny seeing, FedEx dropping off like stacks and stacks of boxes on my porch. And, I remember one time my mom walking in and like one of the boxes fell on her head and stuff. It was just like so typical. And we had people from down the street who would come out and help us like pack up the kits and the boxes and bring them to UPS. And you'd get dog hair on the shirts and stuff that was going on. It was very
takes a village, literally, right?
Yeah, it was very like hacky, but it worked. And we didn't, that's the nature of this business. One, you don't have to put money up front for inventory,
right,
which was great. You had these no-code tools, or now they're called no-code tools, but things like Wix and Typeform and Zapier,
right?
There wasn't really a need to put up any money. There was a little bit of like AdWords in the beginning that we did, but it was really just like doing the job, and just like the sweat equity to get it off the ground. But and I think there's a lot of businesses like that you don't really need the capital sometimes to
right.
get up.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because you started this with a Wix and a Typeform, right? It's amazing to me, and I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, how they want to raise a ton of capital right off the bat, pre-seed, to get an MVP going, build the software before there's any demand or really any testing out the product. And you can really get a lot done by hacking together a very simple, cost-effective solution like what you did. Got a Wix page, sign up for Wix, $20 a month, if that, and then a Typeform page, and start just spending a little bit of ad money out of pocket, just figuring out some of the metrics on customer acquisition cost and all that, and then proving the demand and then compounding that.
Capital is just an accelerant to
Correct.
what's working. It doesn't help you figure out your business. It doesn't build businesses for you. It takes what you're doing and it allows you to do more of it,
right, to
continue to like get greater returns. And yeah, I mean, and also if you're an entrepreneur and you're going to start a business, you're committing to this for the next 10 years or whatever it is, by raising at a point where you don't have anything, you're giving up so much from a dilution standpoint, because there's so much risk associated with the business. So, any seed investor, if you literally have nothing and you don't even have a track record, they're going to want 30 to 35% of your business for some nominal amount of money that's not going to make much of an impact. So you're already starting out where you've diluted yourself to 60%. If you have co-founders, now you're already at 25 to 30%. If you ever plan to raise again, you're already going to be back down to 15 to 20% at the most. So it's just, I mean, sometimes that works when you're going after like really insane scale, like DoorDash and stuff, and you have 1.2%, but that 1.2% is worth $1 billion. But obviously that's not normally the case for most startups. So I don't think people really are. I don't think they really think about it that much. It's just the thing you do, know?
It becomes glorified in the headlines. And
I don't get why there's articles written every time a company raises money. It doesn't.
I hear you.
What is so impactful? Like, what is so valuable about that?
Listen, when I raised capital for my company, like you get this like feeling reading all these TechCrunch articles that you raise $1 million and you're popping champagne and you're all excited about it. There's like this big, let me tell you, when I closed that round, it was extremely anticlimactic. My forehead hit the fucking keyboard, and exactly, shitting bricks. I'm like, now I have to return 10x the capital to all the people that just lent me money. It's not a...
And all your friends think you're like a celebrity and a star.
And you won't see them for the next 3 years because now you're indebted to these people to get them their capital back. It's not a great feeling to owe other people money or take other people money. If you don't have to, don't.
Yeah, and I'm not somebody that like villainizes venture capital.
No, it's needed in certain cases.
Yeah, it's super valuable. I mean, there's certain types of businesses where it's needed right away, and I think it also is a huge accelerant for innovation just in the world.
Agreed.
It has provided the foundation for so many risk takers to go out and build big businesses and swing. And so I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, VCs suck, No,
100%.
It's just you have to recognize, where they provide value and what type of business you're trying to build, and what are you trying to get out of that relationship.
Correct, and it's different for a younger guy that maybe doesn't have kids yet versus someone that needs a salary right out the gate to operationalize something. Every situation is different. I think the underlying theme is be very thoughtful about capital and if you really need it to get to the next level of what you're building and when you need to raise it. Yeah. So on that note of capital, SwagUp, completely bootstrapped to date?
Yeah, we own 100% of the business. The only thing that we had, and this is an important lesson too, we had access to bank lines within the first 18 months. And the only reason we even were able to get bank lines, we got maybe around $550K in aggregate across a few different banks. And certain banks will give you like a certain amount without much financial due diligence. They'll give you 150K, and you get it for a year at a certain rate, and you don't have to have crazy financials. But to get some of the bigger ones, like I brought in a partner pretty early on to basically own the entire back end side of the business. So financials, accounting, law, contracts, hiring, anything, insurance, all that kind of stuff that, most entrepreneurs don't really want to do, and they don't really think or know what to do, or it causes a lot of issues down the line because they didn't do it, and he gave the business a lot of credibility from a traditional kind of mindset standpoint of a banker. Like if I were to go to a banker, they would have said like come back to us in 2 years when you have more, results. But he had the pre-existing relationships with those banks. So we were able to get, some lines and some basic debt, but we also didn't really use it much. Like it helped fill in some gaps in some like weaker times, but we've paid it all back off and all of that. So, but yeah, we still own 100%. So what's really interesting about us is one, we have full freedom and optionality when it comes to investors, obviously, but also from customers too. We have such a diversified customer base that we have complete control over what we want to do, and no one customer has control over us or tells us like, this is what you need to build your product, or this is how you need to work with us. We need more resources, like whatever. Like it's so easy to get strayed in the wrong direction by customers and investors.
Sure. Yeah, and especially if you're top heavy with one client that's responsible for like 30% of your revenues.
Like we have complete freedom to think about what's the right thing for the business, and also how do we want to run the business. And I think it's also just fun too to do it that way,
Yeah, that's awesome. So completely bootstrapped to date. Do you have fundraising plans in the future? Do you want to keep it lean for now and then keep your options open? What are the thoughts? Are we going for world domination, or are we growing slowly and methodically and carefully?
I try to go as close to world domination without raising money as possible.
I love that. I love it. Yeah.
Like I said, I love the freedom. I like that I just played golf this morning and nobody gave me two shits about it, But I think you just have to make decisions on the margin. Like at a certain point, if you're making lots of trade-off decisions, on a daily basis, like, do we hire this person? Do we not? Do we scale this team? Do we not? Do we globalize the platform or not? Like, if it gets to a point where staying in the same spot is too painful, then you potentially raise the money and you repeat the model. But no plans for now. I mean, we have a lot of investors that reach out for sure. But it's also about personal preference. Like how big of a business do you want to build? Like, at what pace do you want to build? It's already a pretty big business. So it's really just about impact. Like, do you want to build a huge business and be known for having had as big an impact as possible? But I also think you can do that without capital if you have a profitable business, because sometimes, you can give us $100 million tomorrow. I can't deploy $100 million, that effectively, that quickly. We already are having trouble deploying capital because, especially from a human capital standpoint, it's hard to hire great people and find them. And
for sure,
we're working on building like a recruiting kind of scalable recruiting infrastructure, the head of talent and recruiters, so that we can execute on a lot of the plans we have. But money doesn't solve those type of foundational problems. You have to set that up, so there's still work to be done before you can just pour capital in.
Exactly. Don't raise the money if you don't need it, especially, once you raise capital, VCs expect you to spend that capital, right? They don't want you just sitting on it, right? And if you don't need to deploy it, no need to raise it at the moment. Yep. So let's talk about the business of Swag. I'm super curious about it, right? About this market, because thinking about it as I was like prepping for this conversation, this seems like a big market that it could be, right?
Under the radar, though.
Yeah, it's under the radar, but fuck, it's massive because every company these days needs it. I mean, I've been a part of corporate companies, like after I got acquired, been part of startups. At every stage, there's Swag.
Even your local bank, like
exactly.
Everyone.
Every single business, I think, at some point needs their own kind of swag or merch to send out, right? So how big is this market overall? Because I'm not going to be able to type into Google the market size of Swag. I'm not going to be really getting any data off that, right?
There's some stuff. It's about it's around $30 billion.
Right. I figured something massive like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's $30 billion, but it's incredibly fragmented. There's no one company that owns a big piece of it. The largest distributor is 4Imprint that does around $1 billion. Then the next couple are like do 500, 600 million. And then the rest of the top 40 do anywhere from like 50 to 150, But there's 30,000 Swag distributors. 98% of them do under 2.5 million.
So niche providers, right?
A bunch of little mom and pop shops in certain areas. They work with these oil companies in Houston. Right. And that's the fragmentation too that you see in the procurement process at these companies, where every team is kind of just doing it under the radar. Like they buy from their person, they buy from their provider, and there's no, consolidation of this process within large companies. And it's really hard from a oversight and management standpoint to really have a grasp and a grip over the swag procurement process from an enterprise level.
Yeah,
and that's like where the platform is going over time. But yeah, it's a huge market. And like I said, I think we grow the market though. I don't think we're just stealing $100 million away from For Imprint. We're taking demand. People, I've always wanted to do new hire packs. I've always wanted to send swag to our ambassadors. We just never did it because it was too much of a pain in the ass.
Right.
Like, so it's new demand that is being generated. So which is great because I like, I'm not all about like, we're beating these people or taking their market share. Like, we don't think about competition.
No, you're growing the market.
Yeah. Exactly. So, but yeah, there's tons of opportunity and it lacks a lot of technology.
So you deal with physical products a lot, right? So really important to kind of nail down these user metrics like customer acquisition costs, lifetime value. Do you, because I know a lot of, if I saw correctly on Twitter, you mentioned a lot of your business is word of mouth. A lot of it
about 70% is organic. Indirect.
So not a ton of paid marketing really in the grand scheme of things.
Paid marketing is about 2% of revenue.
Wow.
Maybe less on certain months.
That's amazing. Yeah. So on that note, I mean, such a heavy scale towards organic. How do you manage customer acquisition costs and LTV, or is it not really a factor for you?
I mean, I look at it and measure it, but it's so like off the charts because of the organic nature that it doesn't really matter. Obviously, you want to see, is it trending in the right or wrong direction?
Right.
Like LTV. I mean, not LTV, but CAC has gone down by a third. It's 33% of what it was in the beginning of the year, which is great. But the number doesn't really matter that much because of how profitable it is. Like if you look at payback periods, like there is no payback. Like you're making money right away, you know, because of how low the cost is to find these customers. So we look at it, but I care more about like conversion rates, how much pipeline we're generating, more like growth metrics than on like optimization metrics and the healthiness of the marketing funnel, because it doesn't matter as much. Just given we're just lucky in that sense. And you also talk about the physical products.
Right.
What's good about our business is we don't hold the inventory either. So yes, they're physical products, but we don't have stock that we've laid out cash for sitting in a warehouse.
Right.
So,
you get the orders.
We produce them as the orders come in.
Right.
Obviously, you have some customers like the Amazons of the world where they'll pay on their terms, like when they're ready, But for the most part, we don't produce things until things get paid. I mean, until payment comes in,
right.
Because if you don't want to produce something and then they decide they don't want it, and now you have a bunch of Amazon T-shirts that who wants a bunch of Amazon T-shirts besides Amazon?
Is Amazon a customer?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, they are. So yeah, I mean, we're also fortunate in that sense. We actually have a negative cash conversion cycle, meaning we're collecting money and able to hold on to it for a certain amount of days without having to give it up. So we're funded basically by our customers.
That's the best scenario you could possibly be in. So
it's about negative 3 or 4, but over time we can get that down probably negative 20 or 30 if we really push on it. And that's what built Amazon in the first 10 years. They weren't super profitable, but they held on to their customers' cash longer than they had to pay it out. And so they had a lot of operating cash flow that they can use to keep reinvesting in the business. And I think there's a big element of like financial literacy that I think some younger entrepreneurs kind of lack, that I think has been super valuable. I went to school for finance. I used to do like, discounted cash flow analysis of stocks for fun, like in my dorm room, like understanding metrics of businesses and what drives financial performance, I think is really important. Because it's important to care about your customers and the business and marketing and all that, but you can be made or broken by your ability to manage cash,
Oh, 100%.
And the longer you can hold on to that cash, the longer you can invest it, the less investment you need from outsiders. So it's not just that the business has performed really well. I think we're really good at managing our cash as well.
That's awesome. That's huge. Cash management is key. I think a lot of investors I've spoken to as we look to potentially invest in early stage startups, now a big determining factor for folks is, will this person be a good custodian of the cash, right? Can you sit across from a person and be like, they know how to spend and how not to spend
versus like $1 million retreats and
or the pool tables.
Offices,
exactly. Which is kind of like I like this post-COVID world a little bit more so for running startups because you are less distracted buy all that stuff that
Oh.
you might have been distracted, all the kind of the ping pong tables and the bean bags and the culture.
I think new company creation formation is up like 200% or something this year. It's out of control.
You're of this new breed of entrepreneurs that I like seeing that are building in public, in my opinion. Like you're very active on Twitter. I think you see more of this. You see this transparency, this like some people before they're like, you know, I don't want to kind of give away what's going on behind the scenes, or I want to just kind of like really heavily curate the way I talk about my company. You're very transparent. You're great on Twitter. You're a great follow. Follow Micheal on Twitter if you're not yet. I'll drop his info in the show notes. But you see more of this building in public, and I think that's going to be leading into your organic numbers, right? You even have your company in your name, you know. So if somebody sees you on Twitter, they know who you represent.
I always use the rocket emoji and everything.
I love that. I love that. So you're of this new breed of entrepreneurs that are building in public. Can you talk a little bit about your thoughts around that? And like, I imagine because you're so good on you write such great content that you section off a part of your day for that, right? Or does it just come spontaneously and you do it
more recently?
Yeah.
But one, I think there's also something to keep in mind with our business is there's a viral nature to it inherently, given the physical products. You know, if we're handling, you know, Patreon's new hire kits or something, and the new hires get them or they're sending them to their creators, like you get that physically and you want to know where it came from. You know? So there's a lot of that. You know, the more customers we work with, the more people know about SwagUp, the more other people want to buy from us.
And that's like a common thing. You see people like new hires on Twitter on their first day where they get the pack and they post it on Twitter usually. So that's like a great bit for you to retweet and say powered by SwagUp.
Yeah, Hopin did that. They posted a picture of our pack. Then their leader of HR says, "Oh yeah, we got them from SwagUp."
Love that.
So that's a huge piece of it for sure. And then more recently, I've been doing Twitter. I mean, I've always had Twitter and I've always been a casual observer and lurker. I think there's a balance between building in, you know, if you're going to build in public, then you have to commit that like, this is our marketing channel. Like this is our strategy. You don't want to just be tweeting just for the sake of tweeting. Like there should be a strategy behind like why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes it can be a distraction early on, like where you're just like worried about your clout and your, you know, what people think of you versus actually building the business. So like 100%. I said, we built the business for the first 2 years. And then when I felt like we had a good foundation, then, you know, go out and start, you know, meeting people and getting on podcasts and tweeting. But I'm also not the type of person, I don't think I've deliberately committed to like, you know, Twitter is our strategy, but it has definitely worked a lot. And I just love the collaborative nature of Twitter where, you know, if somebody goes like, we're looking to do swag for our new hires, like, you know, anybody have any recommendations? Like SwagUp. Like it just comes up, and it's great that, you know, we have the mind share of, you know, that audience, because that is our like core audience. It's, you know, startup founders, VCs.
I mean, this podcast is happening because of Twitter. I mean, we met on Twitter, we connected on Twitter. I DM'd you, right? We got this in the books. We follow each other, and because we do that, and because I've seen some of your content, you have become the de facto recommendation for me when anytime somebody's like, hey, I need to purchase swag or I need to purchase a t-shirt, I'm now recommending SwagUp.
I think there's this natural human tendency of like, you just need something to fill that gap in your brain. Like you typically don't have a recommendation for certain things. Like you just default to the thing, you know, like, you know, what do I want to drink? Oh, I'll have a Coke, or like, you know, there's just always like something that owns that piece in your brain.
The purple cow.
Exactly.
Right?
So, you know, same thing with swag. Like if we keep showing up in front of people all the time and other people are talking about it, then the natural thing for you is, oh yes, SwagUp is the swag company, you know, and it just is what it is. And it becomes a natural thing. Otherwise you're like, yeah, I don't really know I don't know a swag company.
And you and your co-founder, you guys are a huge part of that, because I think we buy from people more than we buy from logos or companies. And I think of you when I think of SwagUp, you know what I mean? And I want to support other good human beings doing great things.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of value in like putting a face to nameless companies. You know,
100%.
Every startup in San Francisco looks exactly the same. You know, they have the same website, you know, they have the same, you know, short domain with the same blue logo, you know. Like who is actually behind the company, and you know, people, like you said, buy from people they like, and it's been a huge contributor, and it's not that difficult, you know. It's just a matter of investing in people and not being, and I think this is where sometimes engineers kind of fall short when they build businesses, is they don't think about the distribution side and the human connection side. It's just all about the product, and product's super important, but if you don't have distribution, you're gonna have a great product that just sits on a shelf and never gets used. You know?
Exactly.
But also, I just get like I said, personal fulfillment out of Twitter, especially in a COVID era environment. You're manufacturing serendipity through the platform that you're not getting,
Correct.
you know, in real life. You know, because I'm not seeing the people at the gym anymore. I'm not, you know, seeing my friends for a basketball game, but I'm seeing my friends online every night when we tweet about things that are relevant, you know? So I think it's just personally fulfilling, and it happens to, you know, by being myself and also being proud of the company that we run, you know, people are just drawn to it, but I don't go into it like I'm going to write this tweet because I think, you know, these 10 people are going to buy from us tomorrow, you know?
No, you're a value add, you know, person. I saw just last night, you were just like, what threads are you guys interested in me writing? You know, things like that, right? You're trying to figure out what, you know, what value you could pay forward. And again, I think the whole build in public movement is powered by that. I'm not just a company. There's a person behind it, and here I am, and ask me questions, and let's do this together.
And it's fun to like give people a roadmap of what you've built. You know, everyone is so you know, scarcity mindset, like you said.
Correct.
Like, you know, if I give this up, then that means my secret's out, and I'm not the only one that can do it. It's like, it's so much more. You know, first off, that's hardly ever the case. You know, that really is going to impact you at the end of the day. And it's fun to see other people do it, and you know, you build the credibility and trust, and you can take that, you know, credibility and trust and do other things with it, you know, if you care about, you know, the return on that.
All right. So getting into the biggest lessons learned in the early days, right? The show's called Lessons Via Leaders. So want to kind of get into that stuff you learned along the way that you kind of wish you knew at the beginning. What are some of those biggest takeaways?
Yeah, I think the number one thing always goes back to getting great people. You know, we've made so many people mistakes in the company of, you know, cheaping out, not hiring people when we should have, hiring the wrong people. And, you know, they set you back so much when you have, you know, because in the beginning you do everything yourself as the founder, and then you bring in other people to leverage you. And then you get to a point where you kind of let them do it. And you think by bringing people in, you're going to be able to accomplish more, but actually things get worse because you were doing it and you were doing it the best. And now you've given it to somebody else. And instead of leveraging your time, they've taken what you've done and done it worse, you know? So I think we should have made key hires a lot quicker earlier on. And I think you have to start at the top when you make hires. Like it's very easy in the beginning when you don't have that much money to just hire like individual executors all the time. And that's important to a degree, but you need leadership that's going to manage those people and build the team and the strategy around what they're going to go do before you just layer in a bunch of people to go execute, you know, because they're going to be aimlessly kind of figuring out, and they're not going to be as effective as they could be. And they're not going to grow professionally because they don't have that oversight and that management on a daily basis. So over time, I've become a huge proponent of, you know, you take empire builders and you put them in place and become mini CEOs of their part of the business. And then you let them figure out what they need to do from there. You can't be expected to go in and know everything about every single part of the business and you be the one that sets the strategy and hiring plan, you know, because then you just become the bottleneck, you know. And I think you have to, you know, there's a lot of founders, I think, that get so caught up in their abilities and they're the reason for the success. But, you know, that's good for the first year. And then afterwards, you really got to get over that because you'll never scale past that. And honestly, 3.5 years in, we're more successful than ever. I'm less relevant in the day-to-day of the business than I've ever been, you know?
You want that though. That's great. That's a good sign.
Yeah. And that's the goal, but we probably could have got there quicker if we would have made the right hires sooner, you know, and everything, I think everything compounds. The things that you do right early become, you know, they compound and compound and compound. And, you know, whether it's saving money or making good hires or making bad hires, you know, both in the up and downside, the things you do early on have, you know, exponential ripple effects, you know, longer term, because, you know, either you run out of money quicker or you get to profitability and then you can reinvest that in technology, and you just keep building on the successes. And the sooner you do that, you know, the bigger the business you'll build quicker. So, but I think it typically all comes down to people very, very early on, you know, where we made a lot of mistakes.
I can agree with that. I made similar mistakes, and I love what you said about, you know, you hire someone, take something off your plate, but they do it worse, it becomes a net negative for the company, right? I've seen that happen multiple times. That really sets the company back because then you have to clean up the mess, then you have to rehire, you know, for that same position. Becomes very, very difficult. Any other mistakes that come to mind? Any other top lessons?
No, I think mistakes that I've seen other people make though is going with tech and product like too soon without understanding what they're building or what the problem is. I think there's a real benefit in building, software after being like an agency or analog business. Like we were just an agency really in the very beginning.
Right.
We had account managers and clients, and we figured out their needs and we satisfied the needs, and it was very hand-to-hand manual. And one, there's nothing wrong with that, because your technology is expensive to build and it takes time, and that's why a lot of people raise money, is because they're starting with the technology.
Right.
But by starting as an agency, one, we were able to generate revenue right away, and we were able to use that revenue as free tuition to learn what these customers needed and the problems they had. And, we took, and basically what we did with the product is digitize the process that we were doing manually, and it wasn't like shooting, darts in the dark or something. Like, we knew what had to happen at that moment. And I think sometimes people go straight to the product too quickly without really understanding the customer and the problem they're solving. And then you run into these, you have to, strip that down and restart, and you have a lot of technical debt and all that kind of stuff. So I think, starting with the problem and the customers and really understanding the market is way more important than building a fancy tech company right out of the gate.
Yeah, and you could do that really with any idea. You don't have to have any tech to talk to customers, to talk to prospects, to actually, interview someone or say, hey, if I built this, would I be able to earn your business? Those kind of like manual tasks are still very effective in the early days. You can prove a lot without even writing a line of software.
Yeah, like my buddy was trying to build an app for almost like OnlyFans, not specifically for X-rated content, but more just a higher level engagement for celebrities and influencers with their most loyal fans.
Yep.
And he was trying to go straight to the top. Like, let me get Drake on this first. We're gonna build the app. We're gonna get Drake. We're gonna get this guy on there. And it's like, first off, you have no credibility. You don't know what is important to them. They have no trust in you. You're just some random guy with an app. Why don't you start by putting some events on in New York City or something? Like, pay them for it. Show them some value. Start to earn the trust. Start to understand why these fans are coming, what they want out of it, and then leverage those insights to build the product. But people just go straight to building the product because it's kind of the easy thing in a way, I'm so comfortable developing. I'm so comfortable designing a product.
It has to be the app, and it has to look a certain way. If it doesn't look nice, nobody's going to want to use it.
There's a graveyard full of products that nobody's ever used.
Beautiful products.
Yeah.
Like you could see they spent $3 million on this product, and it's canned.
That's pretty much Google in a nutshell.
Right, the internal labs of Google, exactly. They're like, yeah, let's just throw 50 million at it. I competed with Google when I was running Live Ninja. Quick story. So Live Ninja, the first version of it was a video chat marketplace where you can hire experts on different topics, for a minute rate or a half an hour rate or an hour rate. One day, we see in the logs that there are 30 new users with @google.com email addresses, not at gmail.com, at google.com. So we're like, holy shit, they're checking us out. That's awesome,
their research.
Right, exactly. Like literally less than a month later, there's a TechCrunch article that Google is launching Helpouts, a Live Ninja competitor powered by Google Hangouts, and it was called Helpouts.
There's so many shitty Google products that have been built over time and nobody even knows about them. Like Google Plus.
Right, exactly. Google Plus was the Facebook competitor. There was Keep, which was the Evernote competitor, and all that stuff. So of course I had to answer 30 emails to all of our investors that are like, did you see? Did you see? Did you see? And we just kept building. It was actually better for us because investors felt like it was validated by Google. And then, of course, less than 6 months later, Google just canned the whole project that it wasn't going to work out. So
it's interesting. There's a fine line between, distribution wins and product wins.
Yes,
because Google has distribution, but maybe they don't know how to distribute. But Microsoft Teams has done incredibly well, but it's similar. You would expect Google to build a product like that, but Google probably would have built it and it wouldn't have been successful. So
I think Microsoft Teams is doing incredibly well because they bundled it into Office 365. So now if you have a subscription for 365 because you use Microsoft Word, you're like, why should I pay for Slack? I already have this in my subscription.
And Slack's actually expensive when you get the scale.
It is. Oh, it's really expensive.
We spend several $1,000s a year on it.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Same thing on Intercom. Intercom is very expensive at scale.
It is.
Every user is another $120 per month, and then you have add-ons and stuff.
They built a moat. They locked in your kind of customer base. It's difficult.
But they've built it as a platform. It's not just chat. There's they have CRM, they have apps that bundle into it, and that's, you need the lock-in of a platform.
That they've built a ridiculous business, Intercom. I went up to, again, Live Ninja was a few pivots, and at the end we were a customer service platform, and we butted up against them a few times, and they were very formidable competitors. They did a lot of good stuff. But yeah, it was the same thing. And I was just talking about this with someone on Twitter. A company gets so big at some point that eventually they default into defense. That's what Facebook to me has turned into. Like Instagram, like I don't even recognize the product anymore because it's like TikTok and stories.
The
and
main CTA button is a shopping
right,
button.
exactly. The product is in full defense mode right now. Oh, TikTok is taking market share. Let's put TikTok in there. Oh, Snapchat's taking market share. Let's put Snapchat in there. It's just nutty. But I completely agree with you. Eventually, these companies turn into these incubators, and they just create things, and then they
I think
sunset
the
them.
interesting phenomenon too with these types of companies is I feel like they just do kind of like a land grab of all the developers and product people and designers that are out in Silicon Valley. Like you go to Facebook, like, do they really need 10,000 developers? Like, I don't think they actually need 10,000 developers, but I just don't think they want Google having those 10,000 developers.
It's true. It's defense. Exactly. For me, the biggest indicator on making good hires when I was running my business was who wanted the job the most. That always seemed to be the deciding factor.
Those people typically worked out pretty well.
Oh my God, bro. The underqualified people that you gave them a chance early in their career that just wanted the gig more than anybody else.
We have somebody like that. We have a lot of people like that, but this one specifically, Nicole, she's been following us for 3 years. Before we were even, known, she's followed our business, and she's been wanting to join us, for the longest time. And she made a career pivot and was willing to take a pay cut, and she's crushing it. Like she's awesome. Now in like a sales role, but she just like, she's motivated, without anybody looking, because she just cares so much about it, and there's this guy, he's the founder of some AI company in San Francisco. And he said his hiring heuristic is, do they give a shit about the company, and do they give a shit in general? And if they have those two things, the rest will pretty much figure it out. Obviously, you want them to have the skill set, and that's for a different interview. But do they care about the company? Do they care just in general?
100%. You hire missionaries versus mercenaries, right? That's kind of the biggest.
Yeah, and we've hired mercenaries before. And
sometimes you need them, but you have to understand that they're there for a specific task, and they're most likely on to Salesforce next. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it didn't work out well. Our last head of sales, he didn't have the passion for the business, and then when you don't have the passion, then when things get hard, you don't dive in,
That was my mistake also, was the head of sales hire, the VP of sales, and those are really hard to get
Everyone
right.
makes that wrong.
Yeah, that's a tough hire, to find the right person, for the long haul. Okay, so on that note, great segue. You're currently hiring for a bunch of roles, right? I saw on Twitter you got a bunch of openings. There's exciting opportunities. Can you tell the folks listening or watching about the openings and opportunities you have at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, technically we have about 25. There's only 12 listed on the site because we just literally can't actually process handling, hiring these people.
Yep.
We had 470 inbound applicants last month, just for the 12 roles on there.
Amazing.
Yeah. So one, we have the warehouse in New Jersey, and that's constantly needs people. It's always understaffed. We have about 30 or 40 people in there, and we have to get that to probably like 50 or 60. But on the other side, you have head of sales, you have head of talent, you've got the head of product design. Again, I like this philosophy of you start with heads and then you build underneath them, and
let them build their teams almost.
Yeah, of course we do have some teams in place, but this is me more backtracking and making up for the mistake of not doing it. Like we could have just hired more designers, we can hire more salespeople, but I want to take this moment now that we have the capital. Let's bring in these people and let them run it. Because it's really just about scaling our time as the exec team. Like we can't be making the decisions for every little team in the company at this scale. So you have that. There's also dev roles, like DevOps is a new function that we never had that we're building out. Salesforce lead Salesforce engineers. Our entire backend system was built on top of the Salesforce platform. So not just as a CRM, but we use it as basically an ERP and warehouse management system. So we have a lot of custom, configurations and integrations in Salesforce. There's customer experience reps, project managers. It's really, to your point, I mean, just people that care. If you really love what we're up to and you care about the business and you're excited, then there's probably a role that we can figure out to put you in.
Love that. So if you have a passion for SwagUp, you check out SwagUp, you're like, damn it, I want to be a part of this company. Just hit up Micheal.
Yeah. In the job app, when I made it, you have the jobs that are available. And then the last one is like, wherever you need me, I love SwagUp, and a lot of people put that in. And it's true. Like we can figure it out. Like you said, if you have the foundation, you care about what you do, you care about the company, and you're, talented, then those people figure out a way to make the jobs work. They're mendable type people. I don't think you need to have industry expertise or anything like that to do well in any specific job. So, and if you think that we should be hiring for something we're not, tell us and be like, this is why I should have this job.
I love that.
And we'll do it. And it can be remote. It can be Miami. It can be New Jersey. I don't care that much. I do want to build out a team down here, though. We have about 8 people in Miami already, and some core people, like our director of product. You have me, you have our CMO, you have our basically president. We have some good, high caliber talent here. Mm-hmm. Our lead backend engineers here. So I do, we just signed a lease. I want to bring more people here too, for sure. So whether they come and move in here with us or local talent, I think the preconceived notion about Miami is that there isn't that much talent, but
I never bought that.
One, I think there is, and two, there's less competition for it also.
Yeah, true.
So, okay, maybe there's not 10,000 engineers like in a 3-mile radius,
right?
But there's 2,000 and they're just as good, and there's way less companies trying to hire them or that can hire them.
Yep.
So our CTO is from here, our lead back engineer, our head Salesforce engineer. So
I never bought into the theory that there's no talent here. It was always a cop-out excuse, just like there was no capital. Like everybody says, no capital, no talent in Miami.
Well, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
You say that's it, so that's why it's not it.
Exactly.
You're not paying them what they should be. You're not giving them the opportunities because you don't think that there's people there when they are there.
Yep, 100%. All right, so for the folks that are listening, we just talked about opportunity that exists at SwagUp. This is kind of like the pitch of where this company is going. It's going some big places, but tell me what the future vision of SwagUp. Where do you see SwagUp in 5 years and 10 years from now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we just had an entire kind of exec plan, like retreat over the last, few weeks, just talking about these types of things. And the real future for SwagUp, and to your point about building in public, like I honestly don't give a shit. I'll tell everybody everything because go execute on it.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, look, ideas are a dime a dozen, execution.
But it's really the separation of, the back end that powers our business and the front end that is like the user experience that our customers use. So it's really, segmenting those two and thinking about them, in their own strategic ways and allocating resources with their own roadmaps versus thinking of it as like this monolithic system that like, we have our clients and we have our operations and we have our warehouse and the systems need to, talk together and you have to do these things to accommodate for how the platform's built. It's like, no, like, the suppliers, the supply chain, the products, the design process, the warehouse, all of that is packaged up into APIs as a platform. And that's how we've built, SwagUp. Our dashboard could be fully replicated by anybody by taking our API doc. So we think of the two as separately already, but it's really making that clear to everybody at the company and also externally that you can build products on top of SwagUp's infrastructure and ability to create and distribute swag globally. Whether you're another swag company that wants to get rid of the back end OpEx to your business.
Yep.
There's, like I said, there's 30,000 swag distributors. Why are they all reinventing the wheel and why are they all, building relationships with suppliers without any sort of economies of scale and hiring ops people and maybe even getting a little warehouse? Like there's no point.
Right.
Just go acquire the customers, retain them, focus on that. We'll focus on the back end of the business and we'll do it better because we have the technology and the resources to give your clients an experience that you could never provide for them.
Right.
So that's a big piece. And it's not even just swag companies. It's powering other experiences. It's integrating into apps where swag plays a role. You have Hopin, for example, the big virtual events platform. Yep. We're in partnership, talks with them potentially. And not to get in, I won't get into that one too deep, but like Kickstarter, for example, you have all these different crowdfunding tiers. Why not have a swag pack builder that you can build a pack for each of those tiers and automatically, send them out to the people that, provide, funds for the different crowdfunding campaigns.
For sure.
So there's so many different examples of those types of use cases. So, the platform is a big area that I focus on primarily. And then you have the dashboard product, which is basically a corporate tool for procuring and managing swag inventory and distributing it. And there's a lot of opportunity there to go more up market and enterprise and, allowing some collaboration across offices and, data security and integrating into procurement systems and integrating into HRIS and ATS systems and CRMs and all that kind of stuff that allows, these companies that are spending $2, $3, $4, $5 million on swag to do it in a systematic way that's repeatable and manageable. I mean, Uber, we have somebody on our team that came from Uber that was managing swag procurement there. They spend $40 million a year on branded merchandise.
Wow.
Without a real clear-cut process or vendor for doing that.
Right. Because it's all over the place.
Yeah. So we're basically almost giving them procurement as a product.
Yep.
Streamlining it and packaging it up into the solution. So
I love that.
Those are the two sides of the business. I think they're equally large businesses.
Love it. Okay, so before we wrap up, we're gonna do some rapid fire questions, right? Just to keep things going and to wrap up the episode. So, what's your favorite movie of all time? It can be top 3. I know this one's tough.
Yeah, I was telling you, I'm terrible at off the cuff kind of remembering things. Like I can't even I can never remember languages or learning how to play instruments, like anything like that. There's some piece of the brain where immediate recall that I'm not good at. My girlfriend got me into like the John Hughes type movies of like Big and Ferris Bueller's Day Off and 16 Candles, like
classics.
And I've never really been into those movies because they're old. Like I don't really want to watch them. But I think those movies are done at like such a higher quality from a storytelling standpoint than like what's come out more recently. So I think those are really good. And I like anything that makes you think, like Inception.
That's such a good movie.
Like all those types
Interstellar.
I don't like scary movies, but I like the elements of like thinking and thriller that comes with that without the scary part. So any movie that kind of toes that kind of line are the things that I like.
Love that. How about best book you've read recently that you've been recommending to other people?
Yeah, I've been reading the same book for like the last 3 months because first off, I can't just read, and I think some people, or maybe me in the past, I would just read it and I'm optimizing for speed. I just want to get through this book and get to the next. But I wasn't really retaining it. I think there's so much more valuable in reading like 3 books a year that you really understand deeply versus like, oh, I did my 50 books for this year,
100%,
and you don't really know what you read or how to apply.
Sometimes you need to reread the same book 5 times.
Oh yeah, and when you read it the second time, the context of your life can change the whole meaning of the book. And you start to see things that you had you didn't see because you didn't have the context.
So what's one book like that for you?
The one book that I'm really reading right now is Competing in the Age of AI, and I've been reading it, like I said, for like 3 months, and I have pages of notes. Like I'll take the blank page and I'll write notes all over it. And I'm highlighting and underlining. Nice. And that's had a huge influence over how I'm thinking about like the platform side of the business and how we integrate, the APIs and AI into the strategy and, digital firms. Like I'm a huge proponent of what Amazon has done to their business model, how they digitize their business model and how they also have spun out products out of all their cost centers.
Right.
The things that are really instrumental to their business, they've packaged up into APIs and made available to their clientele.
Right.
Whether it's logistics or fulfillment centers or AWS or all these different services. So they do a lot of case studies into Ant Financial and Amazon and other really AI-driven platform businesses. And I didn't know much about these types of things going into it. So it's unlocking a whole new world and a whole new imagination of what's possible, when building businesses. So I think that's been hugely impactful. And then other books, I think other books that were really instrumental were like How to Win Friends and Influence People. Just core things that even from a management perspective, I think there's really core management philosophies in there.
Sure, classic persuasion, storytelling.
Yeah, because I think one of the biggest things in startups is just managing the egos of the leadership
100%.
team.
EQ.
You're constantly in these discussions and exec calls and staff meetings, and how do you get in alignment? I think that's one of the biggest challenges that startups has is how do we get our team, the people that matter who are making decisions, aligned around the strategy and execution of what we're trying to do.
Yep.
And when you're going in different directions, it's like such a waste of time, and this person thinks we should do this person, and How to Win Friends and Influence People really tells you like how to get on the same page with people and make what you want the same thing that they want. So I think that's that was a foundational book that I read like early on that's been really impactful.
That's a classic. All right, favorite junk food cheat meal? Like where are you going? Going to Chick-fil-A? Like what's the go-to meal?
Well, I don't know if it's junk food, but we go to Cheesecake Factory a
Oh,
lot.
so good. Cheesecake Factory,
I
bro.
feel like if you don't like Cheesecake Factory,
Yeah.
there's something wrong.
Oh, there's everything in that menu, right?
Yeah,
It's like a book.
It doesn't matter what you like, they have it. They have, whether it's like Japanese or you want Mexican or you want a burger, like if you want a pizza.
Going to Las Olas, you're going to that one? Yeah.
We go there all the time. Because we're not that far from there, so we can walk there sometime.
It's great weather for it.
Sometimes we feel better about ourselves if we run there. Yeah. and then we eat. And if I really feel good, I'll get the Oreo cheesecake.
Oh, fire. Bro, the best, one of my favorite dishes in the world is at Cheesecake Factory. It's the sweet corn tamale cakes appetizer at Cheesecake Factory.
You know what they also have? The chicken taquitos.
Yeah, those are good.
Are out of control.
The avocado egg rolls are good.
Yeah, the bread. Just
the brown bread.
Yeah, the brown is like sweet. Everything. I get the bang bang chicken and shrimp.
That's a good one. The miso salmon is fantastic.
My girlfriend loves the chicken costoletta. It's basically like chicken cutlets with mashed potatoes and like a butter sauce on top.
Nice.
You can never go wrong there. Everything's good.
I think we just found our clip for social. It's the Cheesecake Factory.
and everything on that menu has 2,000 calories or more.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
They shouldn't show it to you.
I love it. No, that's a great pick. All right, biggest guilty pleasure. Could be a TV show, hobby, Twitter, fantasy football. What's your guilty pleasure?
I think it's looking at real estate.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm like on the Realtor app at least an hour a day.
Just looking for deals.
I don't even know. I just love real estate. If you go into like the Discover section of my Instagram, it's like golf, cars, and real estate.
Okay.
And I'm always trying to find, like you said, deals. But I don't know. I just love looking at homes. The inside. What's the value in different areas in the country? Like, even with this condo search, like I really enjoyed it. I had a spreadsheet full of all the different options that we're interested in, and
nice.
There's just something like serotonin in my brain just gets excited just looking at like different homes. I don't know what it is.
I love that.
My girlfriend too. She likes like interior design more so than she loves real estate too, but she's really into like the way that homes are designed. Like I wanted to just get a furniture company to come do it all.
Yeah.
Like there was an app. Somebody on Twitter wanted the same thing, and there was an app that someone suggested where you basically scan your home and you tell them like your style, and they'll pick out all the furniture, come and assemble it, and you're good. And you don't have to worry about it. To me, I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. To her, that's like a nightmare. She's
taking the control away.
That's the whole reason, like the most exciting part of getting a new home.
For sure.
I'm like, that's the last thing that I want to do.
My wife's the same way. It's all about like, what can I do to the place and that kind of thing. It's like a blank canvas.
For me, it's like I want to pay people to do everything.
Yeah, 100%. I'm the same way. Well, that's good. That's a productive way to spend your time looking at real estate. I'm like fantasy football. That shit's taking way too much of my time. During football season.
Twitter too is a bit of a just in general.
Like you said, with Twitter, you have to use it with intention, or else you just go down the rabbit hole. Yeah,
I try to not follow anything political or any people that have really strong opinions. I try to just stick to like facts and information and people that just want to share insights.
Yep.
Because Twitter can be the most valuable platform in the world. It can be the most toxic platform.
Yeah, everybody's Twitter is different depending on who you follow. There's sports Twitter, marketing Twitter, political Twitter. You got to be careful. You have to
be very filtered about who you follow.
100%. All right, if you're not working on your company, you're most likely spending time doing what? Cheesecake Factory?
Well, we eat out every night.
It's awesome.
So it is. We are probably eating somewhere, but also golf. I think golfing a lot. Like golf and running are the two combination. But what's great is Helen, my girlfriend's gotten into golf as well, so we can go together. So a lot of times we'll go to the course and we'll go for a run around the property. Then we'll go play some golf and. We don't have a very exciting, interesting life. We work a lot Monday through Friday. We go out to dinners at night. Saturday and Sunday, we're either we'll take her family to the pool at the golf course and hang out with them. Play golf together. But it's relatively routine. Nothing too crazy. I think being in Miami will change that up a little bit with the serendipity of, and there's so much things to do around. I have friends that have boats there. Like you start to do much. But in Fort Lauderdale, you kind of settle into a routine.
It's more suburban in that sense.
And I like that to a degree too. I'm a pretty low key person in general.
Yep. But still, man, this weather, playing golf, working on your company, going out to eat, could be worse.
It's really not bad, especially with everything going on with like COVID.
Of course, golf is the perfect COVID activity. Because you don't have to be close to people. It's outdoors. Yep. All right, one last piece of advice before we go. If you can give one piece of advice to prospective founders that want to start a business, afraid to make the leap, what would you tell them?
I think most people think that you have to have it all figured out. Like you have to have a business plan, a strategy, have it all mapped out, how you're gonna grow to this rate. Like we just built on our successes. at every stage. It kept snowballing and snowballing. You kept leveling up and leveling up. And we didn't have a grand strategy. We didn't have technology. We didn't have a CTO until 18 months in. We didn't think about packs in the beginning. We didn't think about a platform. We didn't think about warehousing and distribution. Like, those things will figure themselves out. And I think, and I was talking to Nico about this yesterday from an investor standpoint, like, the product and what they're doing is not that important, especially at the seed stage. Like, it's just about the adaptability of the founding team and their ability to kind of intake new knowledge and react to it,
right.
Quickly. And I think that's way more important than your idea and what you want to accomplish over time. And just by starting, you gain an advantage over so many other people. You get the insight. You want to get insight as quickly as possible. You want to get lessons as quickly as possible. And that's what you should be optimizing for. You build great businesses by optimizing feedback loops and keep improving and keep learning, versus like you had some stellar idea from day one, because whatever you came up with on day one or you thought you were going to do, 99% of the time it's so different by the time you actually do something, where, like you said, you pivot or whatever it is. It doesn't matter like what you start with. The main thing is building that muscle and that muscle memory of, I start things and I learn quickly and I have no ego in this, and I'm fine being wrong, because it's not that I was wrong. I tried and I'm learning and I'm doing better. So I think, start as soon as possible and don't get tied to your ideas, emotionally, and get tied. You should have pride in the fact of how quickly you learn and adapt, and how willing you are to take in new information that contradicts what you thought you believed, versus just, I'm a genius. I know exactly the vision that, you're not Steve Jobs. Most people aren't Steve Jobs,
Right. Start out, figure out a foundation, and then learn how to build off that foundation one stage at a time, right?
Yep. Yeah, just keep stacking wins. That's it.
I love that. It's great advice. All right, Michael, well, thank you for being here. Where can folks get in touch with you? Best place? Twitter?
Twitter, yeah. At Michael Marotcci. But I also have my emails on there. Like, I'm totally down for people emailing me. My DMs are open. Instagram, there's nothing exciting happening on Instagram. So I'll just start on Twitter and branch out from there.
I love that. Well, hit up Michael. Guys, definitely going places. SwagUp is going places. Like Michael said on the podcast, they're hiring for a lot of roles. So check out the roles. Even if the role isn't listed, hit up Michael.
Yeah.
If you're stoked on SwagUp, they'll figure out a place to put you.
Exactly.
Awesome. Michael, thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.